India lives in many times at the same time, and so are Indian women. In the same India, you will find a woman who is ultra modern, is beyond the shackle of marriage or all the conventional things, or children, or even if she's married or having children, her life is not something which is which has no freedom or a lot of responsibilities. We have kind of found our way. We are free as we can be, and at the same time, in same India, you'll still see women being killed for honor, and you will see some women hitting the road, protesting, asking for their rights. So we are all sorts, and we need different kind of feminism in different different modes, which is post feminism, early feminism, hardcore feminism, mild feminism. We need all of that right now, because we are living in a very interesting time. It's the time of technology is everywhere. Women in two-tier cities, they are getting cell phones with internet connection, and they're seeing what the world is writing about them. It has put speed in our journey. We are in the process of meeting somewhere very soon.
My name is Shami. I'm the son of a German mother and an Indian father. I lived my whole life in Germany, grew up there, went to school and worked. But in the last years, I felt that something inside me is dragging me to the Indian subcontinent. I just couldn't get enough of the culture, the food, and the people. Now I know that I also belong here, somewhere between the Himalayas and the Indian Sea. I have been to India several times now, and back home I have always been exposed to the question of how women are treated there. People always asked me if it would be safe for a woman to travel through India. But how could I know what it feels like being a woman in India, living in India, and coping with everything that's happening there? In the West, we have a very pessimistic view on how things are for women. We only ever hear those horrible stories, and nobody tells us of women having an independent and unconcerned life. Of course, a lot of bad things are happening to women. But is there more to that? Is there something changing? I'm looking for answers to these questions, as well as reasons and different aspects. I want to search for the image of women in India, want to know who they are, let them tell their stories and opinions, to capture a more holistic view, and listen to them without prejudice.
It's tough to be a woman in India because at every step that you take and with the different kind of people that you meet, they always look at you with the lens of, you know, your gender. And that narrows down a lot of opportunities for you. It narrows down the way you live. It makes it a lot more confined.
I feel good. It's not always good, and I cannot say it's always bad. We have set limitations in our head that I am supposed to do this, I can do this, I cannot do that. So, this is mostly it's our own self who is stopping us from doing things. It's not probably the culture. Culturally, it's not that difficult, but then because we are a part of that culture and we are not letting things go, we are holding on to it. So probably that is the main problem. Other than, I would not blame the culture. I would just try to see how much I can change as a woman, as a younger generation or for the generations to come.
I remember once a friend of mine telling me they didn't want to take a non-AC seater bus because they said that working class people will be going back home and the chances of bad things happening are higher on that. And I said that's a very wrong way of looking at things. I can understand why they said it, because like I said, a certain kind of thought has been fed. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I have taken non AC seater buses with working class people, and they have been nice. And that's the thing I think people forget to look at. That be it working class, non-working class, really rich, non-rich, there's bad and good everywhere. But data gets built, like statistics get quoted in a certain way, and things get fed into our system, into our mind in a certain way. And I think most of the time people forget to check on these things, and the thought gets settled.
I've not traveled alone. I have traveled with friends or family. So with family, it's never been a problem. But my friends, it was such a big deal because 4 girls went to we went to Himachal last year for a graduation trip, and like there was 9 days in like a completely unknown place. But it was an amazing experience. Though like every time we went somewhere, so we went to like these small towns and they kept us asking, "Aap 4 ladkiyan akele ya kyun ho?" Like they asked us, "Oh, like you're 4 girls, you're traveling alone," and this and that. I was like, okay, that's really weird. Like, why would like you emphasize on the fact that like we're 4 girls traveling alone? So I mean, we weren't alone, we were with each other, but still, like, so I think that I'm not traveling alone. I would love to travel within India alone and not feel like scared at every step.
There are a lot of transformations going on in the country in the last few years. Daniela, a German who moved to India over 10 years ago, works for the university and runs a hotel with her husband in Pondicherry in the south of India. She saw all the changes India faced over the last couple of years and knows how they affected women's lives.
That changed really. I mean, especially the women changed a lot. There's a lot of things that really warm my heart. You see women traveling alone, girls traveling alone, enjoying their freedom and not marrying right away, just really, enjoying life before they marry. So culture catches them at one point, but you can see them enjoying a little bit of modern life, which is nice. In the last 10 years, I have to say, I think with the internet, with the access to a world that wasn't India, that Indians couldn't access before, things have changed in a way that are not comfortable for women. Because some people just get it wrong, right? India is a country with a very, very strong and strict culture that kind of catches everyone since childhood, and you grow up in it and you have your place and there's no way to escape, right? India has changed in the last 30 years in the sense that we experience a liberation. So there is change, there is wake up, there is, I think, a lot of things that are good, but then also a lot of things that are still not really kind of harmonious.
So talking from the urban India perspective, I see a lot of important debates happening now. Discussing boundaries, discussing consent, discussing, how we want our allies to be and how we can be allies, what are our safe spaces. So there are important conversations happening, but how there are important conversations happening and they die down. I fear it dying down sometimes. I fear that we're going to again go into this vicious cycle where again there will be a case that the media is paying attention towards, and suddenly it's becoming the talk of the town, and then we are trying to take measures, but I know that these cases somewhere or the other are leading to larger solutions. Like if I call some landmark cases, there was a Nirbhaya case that happened in India. The Nirbhaya case led to India discussing the laws around, women's molestation and, sexual harassment. It led to a very large community movement. But at the same time, we again fell back. It still became an everyday thing.
The Nirbhaya case changed India a lot. In 2012, a 23-year-old female physiotherapy intern was beaten, gang-raped and tortured to death in a private bus in a neighborhood in South Delhi. 6 men, including the driver, committed the crime. All were declared guilty and 5 of them were sentenced to death. A lot of demonstrations, riots and protests happened after the crime and led to change in the judicial system with more fast-track courts for rape cases, new sexual assault laws and a 24/7 helpline for women. But the most important thing is that from this day on, women were encouraged to file police reports against sexual assaults, and the numbers went up after that. Not only did this case change the life of women due to new rules and regulations that came into effect afterwards, there was also a change of mindset between the generations because of a lot of transformations which happened at the same time and are still happening until this day. These changes become especially evident when you compare the life of daughters to this of their mothers or even grandmothers.
I'm quite fortunate because I've grown up with quite strong-headed women who knew what they wanted to do. If not for women standing up for at least my grandmother and mother, standing up for what they wanted and breaking all the odds and knowing what they want to do in life and not being oppressed by somebody else's opinion. I think that's what worked for them, and I think that's been a very positive example and influence in my life.
My mother got married at her age of 13, so she cannot say that I cannot marry now, I want to still stay. But for me, there is a freedom, like I can say no for my marriage until I want to get married. I want to settle my life. I want to achieve something in my life, so I'm stopping in that. So it's really different.
My mother got married at the age of 22, and ever since that she's not taken a single decision on her own. So when she was with her parents, she used to have decisions taken for her by her parents. But when she got married, she had a family and she had to take decisions for her family. So for her, everything was, either mediated by her husband or mediated by the needs of her children. So the way she was conditioned to come up, to live life was, she was always someone else's someone. But for me, I don't know if that's selfish, but at an age, when I grew up, when I got educated, when I got my first job, there was a part of me that said, no, this is for me. This needs to be set apart for me. For me to stand up as a person and think for myself is something that she didn't have, nor did her mother. So that was like a big change.
A few years ago, I actually told my mom that, I think she's given a lot in her life. I've seen it firsthand. She's a bigger giver than she's taking from anyone. And I've told her that as much as I love her, and I can never be like her. So sometimes I still feel like I need to be more giving. At the same time, I feel like if I do, this is the same reason that, maybe men or other people in my life would think that they have the right to treat me in a certain way then. And I don't think that would be fair on me as a person or as a human. So I think we're very different, we're leading very different lives. They had very different priorities. For them, it was more important to get their children to the right space. And for us, I think it's important for us to have that peace in our mind before we do anything else and move forward with anybody else for the rest of my life. So, it's a very different lifestyle. It's a very different generation. I don't think it's even a generation gap. It's just completely different. Yeah, I think she would definitely say that she's from India and I'm from the West or something.
The influence tradition has on women's lives faded out over the last generations. However, these old traditions still play a big role, especially when it comes to marriage and often a very early wedding. It restricts women in their independence. But if you take a closer look at ancient Hindu scriptures, it turns out they actually told people very important lessons about how to treat women. I'm meeting Mahesh, a yoga teacher, philosopher and psychologist from Rishikesh, who studied the early scriptures of Hinduism, called Vedas.
Lots of Western people, even Indian people, ask me, Mahesh, we read lots of books of yoga. but we never read a word there, yogini. There is only yogi, 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 yogi. Name is there. So why only yogi? Why not yogini? Is there only male have power to be to practice yoga, or male is only the person can do yoga? Why women not? The Indian culture, in the ancient time of the culture of yoga, I found there is no need to practice yoga by the woman. Why? As I told you, woman mind is more controlled, and woman is already enlightened. Like, yoga is the science of nature. And nature has power to produce something. And women also have power to produce. If woman is not there, male is not there. Woman has the power to produce a baby. What is this? This is nature. So she is already enlightened. There is only word written yogi, because male have to practice. Woman is already purified, so there is no need to practice. She is here to just spread the purity to others. Nowadays, there is impurity with everything, with women, with male. So everyone is practicing now. So woman is most responsible person in Indian culture for everything, for their child, for their husband, for their family, for their in-laws, for their mother and father. So she take care of everything. India is the only country who has maximum number of goddess. Maximum number of goddess. Goddess for everything. Goddess for knowledge. Nature is goddess. River is a goddess. There is a lot goddess around. So, like me, I am here right now because of a woman. A woman gave me a birth. I have an identity right now because of it.
But traditions, religion, rites and rituals transformed over time, and still today they take up much space in the life of Hindus. And of course, they also affect women's lives. Arranged marriages, as well as the pressure to find a husband, is probably the most restrictive one.
You might be educated to be having a PhD, but still somewhere at the back, your family will be pushing you for that. For example, if you don't get married at the age of 24, you are not considered marriageable material yet. So no matter how educated the girl is at the age of 24, she is forced to settle down with nothing, because it's a tradition that they have to keep up with. I don't know why that tradition came in, or if that tradition is right or not, but that in a way pulls back the girl in spite of being educated. And then it's inculcated in her mind, which she'll probably tell her children, that keeps going down and down. So traditions customs can be a hindrance for such a development at a particular time.
India is so incredibly large, and cultures, languages and cuisine change almost after every corner, and so do traditions. There can't be anything uniform in India, especially if you compare north to south. I'm meeting Vatsala, who traveled the whole country to find out about different realities in different parts of the country.
So I'm Vatsala and I'm a story collector. I collect stories of people from all walks of life, and I use those stories as tools to understand society, community I'm working with, and to understand the pulse of the time I'm living in. That's what I do, and it has evolved. I've been a journalist for 15 years now, and there are regional differences, and especially the northern India and southern India, you would see a lot of difference in the way. In Delhi, if I have to step out after 10:30, 11, I'll be conscious. I'll watch out, which taxi I'm going in. Maybe I'm a little paranoid because I have an incident happened with me in Delhi. I was in a newspaper at that time, and I was working, and I had late hours, and somehow somebody noticed that I live alone in a flat, and a person who used to drop newspaper at my house just walked into my house and pushed me on the floor and tried to, misbehave with me. It was kind of rape attempt, and I was saved in within 5 minutes. I fought bravely, and I took him to police station, and I filed a case, and all of this happened in Delhi. So Delhi makes me a little bit of paranoid at times. But in Bangalore, if I'm out at 12, I will not feel. And in Bombay, even at 3, I will not feel that. And in southern India villages, I won't feel that unsafe. In northern India villages, I might feel that unsafe. In Bihar, I will feel unsafe, though it is my state. I will feel unsafe going out alone, like at 12:30 or 1 in a two-tier city, out alone on the road. I think there's a lot of population pressure in northern part, and because of a lot of population pressure and a lot of struggle in terms of food, shelter, house, that daily life struggle makes you a little insensitive because you don't have time to take a step back and pause and see. That is one. Two, the women were inside house. They were not going out and working for a long time. Even if they went out and worked after having children, they had to go back, and many of them didn't resume their career. Men were the main bread earners. They were the one who were going out and doing things, even after studying or doing your masters or PhD. Many women chose to stay at home, and suddenly we started coming out and working. So that change was too much for a lot of men to handle.
While the South is more focused on education, the North is famous for being business-minded. Young people join the workforce earlier to earn money instead of finishing their school degree. This becomes clear if you look at the literacy rate. Kerala in the south with over 90% and Bihar in the north with 63%. But not only are there significant differences from region to region, urban life in one of India's many megacities and life out in the countless little villages is incomparable, and often the differences are as big as the Himalayas.
I think as women who live in cosmopolitan cities, I think a lot comes without asking, be it an access to electricity or mobile phones. Everything is just like in the reach. Like you don't have to travel miles together. You don't have to wait for anything. You have access to internet, which means that you can order clothes. You don't have to go and wait for a mela or an exhibition to be set up somewhere to buy something. I think that's what all people who are in cosmopolitan cities experience, that everything is in the reach, versus people who are in urban, who are in rural parts. I think they have to demand a lot. They have to wait. There's a certain patience. There's a certain why would you need this? It can't be fantasized for them. It can't be about following a certain trend. It all comes with a certain baggage. So and I think with that also comes the fact that how accessible is employment, how accessible is education, how much voice do they have in their own families, and is that voice counted as well, and what are their options once they step out of their colleges, and how safe is it for them to step out, because most of the schools, colleges or companies that are employing them are quite away from where they live and all. So basically for them it's how much is too much, and for us it's just too much everywhere. So I think even we do not know where to draw a line, and they have just been drawing lines forever.
So there is no one India. As a woman in India, I'm very much aware of this because, the Indian society is conflicted. We say India is a developing country, but there are states that are developing, there are cities that are developing, and they're developing at different rates. They're developing at different times. my feeling of being a woman changes with every community, I shift from or shift to, or every state or city I shift from and shift to. I come from a city that's, in between a second and third tier, and I've come to a city that's clearly a first tier city. And my experience of being a woman has changed. Where out there, I've had restrictions on timings, I've had restrictions on the way I dress up, in the areas that I go to, in the way I talk to men, in the way I talk to people in general. But as soon as I've come and migrated to this city, I don't have so many restrictions. I can treat my male counterpart with the same affection and with the same closeness I can treat a woman counterpart with, and not be judged for the same.
Nearly everyone has a smartphone now or access to one and can receive information from around the globe. The impressions they see in the web are mostly not compatible with Indian culture, and this can lead to clashes with their old traditions. But it also leads to a lot more liberty, especially for women, because access to information is now democratized. I'm meeting Misha from TechLab in Mumbai, who is currently working on a digital approach to equip rural men and especially women with basic information about government schemes or how to open a bank account.
Net Nari is a women-only initiative that we started very recently. Our aim is to eventually create a platform for women to get information that directly affects their lives. A lot of women are also now coming into the digital world and entering that. So we want to tap into that. We want to create an entire community of women all across India. We're starting out in Maharashtra, where they get information on healthcare, government schemes, financial literacy, business hacks, parenting, like inspirational stories. And we want to empower them in a way that they can actually become independent and take decisions through the information that we're providing. So what we try to do is provide very actionable information. It's a WhatsApp-based mechanism, because one thing that we noticed when we did all our research on ground is that anyone who has internet is always on WhatsApp. That one app everyone has is WhatsApp. So how do we leverage that to get women together and utilize it for a more beneficial way? The entire rural and semi-urban market in India is very fragmented. It's very difficult to understand. People are very different. Like, our dialect changes every 16 kilometers. The people change, the way they dress changes, food changes. Like, it's crazy. Like, the diversity in our country. It's beautiful, but it's insane. Like, it's very difficult to customize content for people. But what we are trying to do is generalize it in a particular way, but also make it very useful for them.
People in cities and villages have totally different lives. That's not really a specific thing for India. But developments can't just take place in cities, they have to also be applied in the rural areas. Shruti did her studies and post-graduations in Kerala and Tamil Nadu until she realized she needed a more social purpose in life. She is now a certified rural manager.
The idea is that you flush out rural managers who can make policies and strategies keeping the rural side as well, because the majority of the things that happen right now are catered to people just in the upper middle class. So we need to trickle down to the bottom, and you need people who understand why certain things don't work to the bottom of the pyramid, and that's what we do. For the 3 internships, I was in 3 different places. I was in Bikaner, a very remote village, and remote means very remote. It was so sad. I mean, sad to know that, if these girls needed some sort of medical assistance, they would have to travel 2 hours to the nearest town to get something. Even their basic provisions, like for a girl, the most important thing is their sanitary napkin. For them to get it, they have to send someone off to the town, like 2 hours from there, to get something like that. So that's how the villages in Rajasthan are. And the focus is more on how to get them married off than their education. In the other internship was in the villages of Kerala. So in Kerala, villages are like towns. the concept of villages is entirely different in Kerala. So there's more of women actively doing work in and around their community. The third internship was in another village in Gujarat. They are more on a decision-making role than the men in the society, which is what I've seen in the village that I know. So basically, yeah, the rural politics differs in different villages, and certain areas you can see how women are pushed to take decisions in their families. In the village in Bikaner, they are starting off trying to liberate these women by using education as a source, which they think is probably one of the reasons how women can achieve independence, which is true, because they need to be educated at first to know that they have these and these rights, these and these things go on and around their society. The ability to take up that particular attitude, that is, I need to read a newspaper to know what's happening around, so that she can build her awareness. Before that, you need to educate her to read, to tell her that this is how you do. So it has to start with educating your children or your girls. Eventually, when she gets aware, she'll understand. So if a mother is educated and has seen the different kinds of things that happen in and around the society, she's able to make better decisions for her family. And usually in a family, it's if the father has to say something to their children, they do it through their mothers. So it's the mothers who carry on the whole family lines, customs and traditions. So basically that's the thing, that how women are treated in certain cultures and how women are treated in certain other cultures, they push it down their children. So we always say that if you want to make any change, mothers should tell their sons first. So that's the concept. A mother, if they know, if they are aware, will tell their sons, and the sons will treat their sisters as equal to them. So that the change starts from there.
But how to educate the mothers? The educational system changed in India for the better. Now a lot of girls are going to school and are studying. But the kids still learn a lot of important things at home. I'm meeting Monali in Udaipur. She worked as a teacher and is now a school coordinator in a local school.
You see, a teacher is the substitute for a mother. Like, the parents, they send their children to the school, and for 4 hours, 5 hours, when there is no mother, the teacher takes care of the child. So she's a substitute of the mother. So I'm not saying that in school they do not learn any values at all. They do, but most of them are in joint families, so they still have their grandparents. Each family that has grandparents, they always give you good values. They tell you that yes, you need to respect your elders. They explain you in a nicer manner, and most of the times it is like that for boys and girls. That the boys that say that you have to behave, you have to take care of your younger sister, you should not fight. So yes, they do have good values, but the thing is how much they put them in use. But most of the time the parents are busy on their phones and this, so half of the times the kids are watching television. Nowadays people, with all these new technologies and everything, the parents are busy, so are the kids. They do not have time for each other.
पहिले कसं शिक्षण घ्यायचं झालं तरी पण पैसे नसायचे, त्याच्यामुळे कमी पडलं. म्हणजे शिक्षण घ्यायचं झालं तरी मुलं भरपूर असायची, त्यामुळे शिक्षणाला पैसे नसायचे, त्यामुळे पुढे शिक्षण घेता आलं नाही. आणि आता कसं आहे, आपण शिकलो नाही म्हणून मुलांना पहिलं शिक्षण देतोय की नाही, ते गरजेचं आहे आणि पुढे फारच गरजेचं आहे ते शिक्षण बोलणं वगैरे हे सगळं हे घालण्यासाठी आपल्याला शिक्षणाची फारच गरज आहे इथे म्हणजे सगळीकडेच. आणि मुलींना तर पहिलं शिक्षण दिलं पाहिजे, कारण त्या दोन्ही घरचा उद्धार करतात, माहेरचा पण आणि सासरचा पण. उद्या काही झालं तरी ती तिथे स्वतःच्या पायावर उभी राहिली पाहिजे, म्हणून शिक्षण फार महत्त्वाचं आहे.
In former times, women would stay at home and take care of the kids, the household, everything. Educated women were given access to the job market, and nowadays both women and men are working. This leads to economic liberation of women, which is a huge step to an independent life.
getting that first salary was like the happiest thing for me, because I've been dreaming since very young age, saying that, oh, okay, if when I get my first salary, I set apart this much amount for getting something for my parents, getting something for myself, getting something for my brother. So I kind of think that, this independence, if it's a woman, that's the step that can push them ahead.
Economic empowerment actually results in a social empowerment. I mean, we consider it as a springboard for social empowerment, because the moment women start earning, they become more independent in terms of their own needs, and are also able to take decisions on how do you spend money. So they spend more on children's education, health. They have a better voice at home. They are no more dependent on their husbands. There is also a lot of confidence that we see, the increase in confidence, their ability to actually even travel. So yeah, it does have an impact.
There are a lot of smaller and bigger NGOs which try to help getting more and more women into the workforce and make them economically independent. Not depending on your husband or parents can be a huge step into an autonomous life. Such an NGO is Industry, located on the outskirts of Bangalore.
Industry is a not-for-profit organization started in the year 2000, and it was set up to work for the artisanal sector, for the people working in a creative manufacturing sector. The whole aim was, how do we transition people from poverty to prosperity in creative manufacturing. So initially we used to train artisans, we used to work with them to provide them market support. But the moment we exit, we used to find that people were not able to sustain their livelihoods. So now we work on a producer company concept where these 100-200 artisans come together and start their own company. These producer companies are 100% owned by the artisans, and they are professionally managed. So while the company is 100% owned by producers, they do hire professionals to help them with marketing, help them with finance, help them with supply chain, and so on. We have now embarked on a mission called Mission Creative Million, under which we aim to impact lives of 1 million artisans across 8 states in India. Right now, the pilots have already started. So we are working in Karnataka, we are working in Tamil Nadu. We are also started in Orissa as well as Andhra Pradesh. The main sectors that we work in are largely in apparel sector, which is garment making. Then we work in natural fibers, and we also work in handloom, as well as planning to work in food processing.
Where Industry is mostly try to establish big networks of companies, suppliers and retailers, Empower is working more on a grassroots level. With sanitary projects and microcredits, the women of Empower help women in villages in and around Panvel, 2 hours away from the mega city Mumbai.
आपल्या नेरेगावमध्ये 93 मध्ये रस्त्याचं काम, लाईटीचं काम आणि पाणी इथे नव्हतं. नेऱ्यामध्ये डोक्यावरून आणावं लागायचं, म्हणजे हांडे वगैरे घेऊन कपडे धुवायला जायचं झालं तरी पूर्ण नदीवर जायचं, म्हणजे त्यातच पूर्ण एनर्जी आमची निघून जायची. म्हणजे पाणी भरण्यापासून ते कपडे वगैरे, तर त्याच्यानंतर मग आपण पोटासाठी जेवण वगैरे करायचं, ते बाळाला रडत ठेवायचं. पण हे निर्भयजी जैन आहेत, एक्स चक्षू फाउंडेशनचे जे ट्रस्टी, त्यांनी खूप म्हणजे एवढं चांगलं केलं 93 मध्ये की पाण्याची योजना त्यांनी आणली. म्हणजे स्टॅम्प पोस्टवर नळ आले, नंतर लाईट आली, रस्ते वगैरे झाले. ते आमचं डोक्यावरचं ओझं खूप खाली आलं, म्हणजे खांद्यावर आल्यासारखं वाटलं, आणि त्यांनी खूप समाधान वाटलं. आणि मग तिथपासून मग आम्ही बचत गटांच्या ह्याच्यावरती काम केलं. आणि बचत गट मेन त्याच वेळेला झालं, 93 पासून सुरुवात झाली. आणि मग पहिलाच बचत गट माझा महालक्ष्मी महिला बचत गट, 13 जणींनी आम्ही ऐकलं होतं मीटिंगमध्ये. 13 जणींनी बचत गट केला आणि त्याच्यामध्ये महालक्ष्मी गटाचं नाव ठेवलं. नंतर मग आम्ही म्हणजे मी पहिलं काय होतं, घर, मूल आणि चूल एवढंच करत होतो. पण त्याच्यानंतर मला एक व्यासपीठ मिळालं, म्हणजे सक्षमता मिळाली की मी परिपूर्ण झाले, की बचत गटाच्या माध्यमातून मी माझी बचत करायला लागले. शिवाय घरामध्ये मला एक मानाचा दर्जा मिळाला. म्हणजे त्या दृष्टिकोनातून मला लोक पाहायला पण लागली आणि मी चक्षूमध्ये कामाला कार्यकर्ती म्हणून जॉईन झाले. आणि तिथपासून मी बचत गटाचं काम करायला सुरुवात केली, कार्यकर्ती म्हणून सुरुवात केली.
Because of the hard work of many NGOs, women can assure their livelihoods themselves. Earning your own money gives you freedom, at least theoretically. But what does this freedom actually mean?
I think independence is a mindset. I know a lot of, while collecting my stories and meeting women, I have met a lot of women who are house helpers, whose monthly income is less than $100. And they are so independent, you have no idea. They run their households, they make all decisions, where to invest, what to buy, what to eat, what to wear, and they do it all. And at the same time, I know women who are earning salaries in maybe $2,000, $3,000 per month, like in India, and they're still they are being beaten up in the night, and they do not have enough courage to walk out of their marriage or anything because they are under pressure of society, or they feel, what will people say, and it's okay, let's make the compromise. So I think it's a very interesting way to look at Indian women. It's not about which city or which culture or which class we are coming from. You will find independent women in India, in every city, in every class, and in every strata. You don't have to have a lot of money to be an independent person. It's a mindset, and it's a social conditioning. It's a personality type, and we have many. And I think because of lots of stories which are coming every day, because technology has penetrated to every city and every place, and women are reading those stories, they're coming across those stories. So there is, I think we have a lot of independent women here.
जर मुलगी शिकली तरच ती नोकरी करू शकते किंवा स्वतःचा व्यवसाय करू शकते. हे कशासाठी, तर उद्या नवरा वगैरे व्यवस्थित असला तर ठीक, नाही तर तिच्या स्वतःच्या पायावर ती उभी राहिली पाहिजे. आणि लग्नासाठीच नाही म्हणत आहे मी, पण ती जर सक्षमच नसेल तर ती इतरांना काय करू शकेल. आपण मुलगी म्हणतोय ना, मग मुलगीला प्रत्येक कुठे गेलं तरी सक्षम बनलं पाहिजे. शिक्षणासाठी सुद्धा नाही, पण अनुभवामधून पण तिने मोठं व्हायला पाहिजे. शिक्षण तर फार महत्त्वाचं आहे. आज पूर्ण आपल्या देशामध्ये जर तिला राहायचं असेल, जर तिला तिची इमेज जर करायची असेल, तर शिक्षण फार महत्त्वाचं आहे. त्यामुळे तिने शिकली पाहिजे आणि स्वतःच्या पायावर उभं राहिलंच पाहिजे.
The concept has to change from the women themselves, because there are a lot of women who still now say that, oh okay, I can't do this because I'm a girl, I can't step out because I'm a lady. If you have the confidence in yourself, your children will learn from you, seeing that confidence. And it's not focusing on men, it's focusing on the women and how we need to change their ideologies. They will eventually change it in their children. Women need to stand on their own feet. Need to stop depending on fathers and husbands and brothers. It just takes out a part of you. You shouldn't, women should stand on their own feet.
Although life can be easy for a lot of women, there are still horrible things happening in India. Acid attacks are one of these things that still happens to women more often than you would imagine. The most common reason to commit an acid attack is one-sided love, but also property desires can be a reason. The Chow Foundation tries to help those women in need with shelter, different aid programs, and the Stop Acid Attack campaign. Before 2013, it was very easy to buy acid in the shop for around 15 cents per bottle. Because of a petition of the Chow Foundation, in the same year the government banned the open sale of acid. Buyers now have to register and name the purpose of use, even though there are still cases around India. But now the media is picking up on them and people get to know about this horrible practice. In order to make this topic more talked about in communities, the Chow Foundation built the Sheroes Hangout. Here, victims of acid attacks can start working, start living a normal life again and be together. 2 of these cafes are in Agra and Lucknow. Just a few hundred meters away from the incredible Taj Mahal, the building of love, Sheroes Agra is located and welcomes guests every day with tasty food and beverages. There I'm meeting Neetu and Shabnam, 2 survivors of an acid attack.
मेरा नाम नीतू है, मैं आगरा से हूँ. मैं होंगी 26. जब अटैक हुआ था मैं 3 साल की थी और मेरी मम्मी के ऊपर और मेरी बहन के ऊपर, हम यानी कि 3 लोगों के ऊपर हुआ था। और अटैक का रीज़न ये था कि हम 3 बहन थे उस टाइम। अटैक मेरे पापा ने किया था और मेरी नानी के यहाँ पर जाके फतेहपुर सीकरी में रात को 1 बजे एसिड अटैक किया। उसमें से एक बहन मेरी ख़त्म हो गई हॉस्पिटल में 2-1.5 महीने के बाद। मैं अपनी मम्मी के संग में अपना जीवन व्यतीत कर रही हूँ। ख़त्म हो गई वो तो 2-1.5 महीने बाद। उसके चेहरे पे नहीं पड़ा था, उसका सर गल गया। मैंने शुरू से ये फील नहीं किया कि मेरे साथ कुछ हुआ है। मैंने एक नॉर्मल ज़िंदगी जी है। जब मैं धीरे धीरे बड़ी हो रही थी तो मेरे दोस्त थे कुछ तो मुझसे बोलते थे नहीं तो तुम फेस कवर कर लिया करो, किसी को ये नहीं पता चलेगा तुम्हारा चेहरा ख़राब है। मैंने बोला मैं सच को क्यों छुपाऊँ, फेस कवर वो करेगा जिसने मेरे साथ किया है। मेरी क्या गलती थी, मैंने क्या गुनाह किया है जो मैं अपना फेस कवर करूँ। मतलब कुल मिला के मैंने अपनी नॉर्मल ज़िंदगी जी है। मुझ पर इस चीज़ का कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ा है कि मेरे साथ क्या हुआ है, क्योंकि जो भी चेहरा ही मतलब सब कुछ नहीं होता है। एक जो मन की खूबसूरती होती है वो ज़्यादा मायने रखती है। मतलब ज़रूरी नहीं कि चेहरा ही हो, कि मतलब वो एक खूबसूरत विचार हो ना और एक मन की खूबसूरती वो ज़्यादा जरूरी है। पिताजी के लिए कुछ नहीं, पाप से नफरत करो ना कि पापी से। बदला लेना कोई बड़ी बात नहीं, उसको क्षमा कर देना बड़ी बात होती है। काफ़ी बदलाव आया है, बहुत बदलाव आया है शुरू खुलने से। मतलब पहले बहुत सारे अटैक सुनते थे, यहाँ पे अटैक हो गया, ये हो गया, वो हो गया, लेकिन अब तो बहुत मतलब हो रहा है, लेकिन कम हो रहा है। लेकिन लगता है कि अगर ऐसे ही लड़ते रहे और ऐसे ही मतलब सब लोगों का सपोर्ट रहा, एक लंबी चेन बनेगी तो जरूर चेंज आएगा।
हेलो, मेरा नाम शबनम है और मैं अलीगढ़ से बिलोंग करती हूँ। और जिस टाइम मेरे ऊपर अटैक हुआ था तो मैं 15 साल की थी और मेरे ऊपर अटैक 2005 में हुआ है और आज मैं 28 साल की हूँ। और जिस बंदे ने मेरे ऊपर अटैक किया था वो एक ठेकेदार था, मैं हैंडवर्क का काम करती थी। वो मुझे लाइक करता था। मैं नहीं समझती कि वो लाइक करता था क्योंकि वो ऑलरेडी शादीशुदा था। मेरे अंदर इतनी समझ भी नहीं थी कि मैं उससे प्यार क्या होता है, इतना भी मुझे समझ था। फिर मैंने उसका काम छोड़ दिया तो उसके बाद उसने 1 महीने बाद आकर मेरे ऊपर रात में 1:30 बजे आकर अटैक किया। मेरे अटैक के 3 साल बाद 18 साल में मेरी शादी हो गई। थोड़ी मेरी बेटी से मुझे हिम्मत मिली। मैं सोचती थी कि क्यों दुनिया के लिए जीऊँ। मैंने अपनी बेटी के लिए जीना स्टार्ट किया और मैं घर से बाहर निकलने लगी। मैंने फिर भी शादी ज़रूर हो गई, लेकिन मैं अपनी हिम्मत ना जुटा पाई कि सबके लोगों के सामने आऊँ। कोई मेरे ऊपर इतने कमेंट करता था कि इसकी गलती होगी, ये इसकी गलती होगी, जो अटैक करके बैठा है उसकी तो उसको तो समाज भी सपोर्ट करता है, उसकी फैमिली भी सपोर्ट करती है, लेकिन जिसने कोई कुछ सोचा ही नहीं उसको आज दुनिया अलग कर रही है, समाज अलग कर रहा है, अपने रिश्तेदार अलग कर रहे हैं। इसी रोज़ में आने के बाद मेरे अंदर इतना बदलाव आया है कि पहले मैं घर से बाहर निकलती थी तो बुर्का ओढ़कर निकलती थी। यहाँ तक कि मैं थोड़ी सी दूरी पे मतलब मेरी गली घर से बाहर निकलते ही मैं फेस कवर कर लेती थी। और आज मेरा अंदर इतनी हिम्मत है और लड़कियों को देख के यहाँ सीरोज़ में एक फ्रेंड बहुत अच्छे हैं यहाँ पर, तो उनको देख के मेरे अंदर हिम्मत आई और आज मैं फेस कवर नहीं करती हूँ। घर भी जाती हूँ कहीं फेस कवर नहीं करती हूँ, बाज़ार भी जाती हूँ कभी फेस कवर नहीं करती हूँ। इतना बदलाव मेरी ज़िंदगी में सीरोज़ लाया है।
The feedback is positive, but in local peoples don't want to come here. They are supporting, they are talking positive, but they don't want to come here. It will change because the youth is coming. The number of the youth come here, so it will change. It's getting better because the media is playing a very important role. Media is reporting very positively. They are supporting the girls and they are trying to reveal the reasons. They are trying to make them empower. So everyone is getting better. The thinking is getting better every day.
How a society deals with women can have a lot to do with the media, which has a huge influence. It can change the opinion of the population or can shine a certain light on different topics.
The dialogue is changing, but I think even media has a long way to go. Like, there are things which are covered, but like I still see articles which say the first female blah 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 Like even if it's the first ever person to do it, but they will specifically mention that it was a woman who did it. But I believe that the dialogue is changing.
India's most influential outlet, of course, is Bollywood, the largest movie industry in the whole world. With their thousands of films every year, Bollywood have a voice in every living room and cinema and can shift people's opinions. And this industry kind of started to use its power to shift mindsets towards a more equal world.
Bollywood is a huge influence on the Indian society. It is, in one or the other way. Starting from everything, the weddings to honeymoon to relationship, everybody is like the bachelors would go, when you're not married, they watch these films and they want girlfriends or they want boyfriends. They want their life running parallel to the Bollywood cinema. So, which is not always like that.
Bollywood so far has been very slow in making that statement which women of India deserve. But in past 5-6 years, there have been a tremendous change there. A lot of filmmakers which have come from from outside the industry, and they have made some beautiful movies capturing the real essence of Indian women today, where a girl can say no and she expects everyone to respect that no, where a girl breaks her engagement and goes on her honeymoon alone. So these kind of movies have come, and lot of movies have come these days, and these are all new directors, new people coming and experimenting with the subtext undercurrent feminism kind of thing. So
The digitalization also brings global discussions into the country, like the Me Too debate. While it first was focused a lot on celebrities in the West, Indian girls and women adapted it fast to their own lives and used the hashtag to shout out their own stories.
Taking the Me Too movement as a movement where women came about their stories of sexual harassment, it was taken in India, at least in urban India, with in a good and positive manner. But at the same time, we did have certain elements that created a trouble in the movement, where it made us aware as a society of how almost every woman that we know has, been sexually harassed, has been molested, or has been verbally harassed. So we got to know that. We were in as much as a shock as our Western counterparts. But in India, I also saw this debate rising where yes, the men came out as stronger allies, but at the same time, we had a group of men, talking about how men's issues are not being put on the forefront. But I think recent events in our country have made us look into the finer details of sexual harassment. It has made us look into the way consent would work. It has made us look into what would be a case of confusion, what would be that of violation.
It was so much. It was everywhere on internet, and it was a happy moment for a lot of us, because women, really shy women, quiet ones, women from rural India, girls going to colleges in third-tier cities, they also came online and wrote Me Too. And that takes a lot of courage. Many of them treated Me Too as what has happened in past, let it be. But it was more about being able to say Me Too. It was not about what happened with me. It was about I can say Me Too and I'm not ashamed about it.
With women becoming more and more independent and modern, not only mindsets are changing, but also their appearance. You are what you wear, but there's more to that.
Being a woman growing up in India, we being always told that women can do this but they cannot do that, and there's some things that you're just conditioned to believe in. I think garments to me are like one of those break or make things, and they really help you put it across that I'm not going to be just like another one of you. Because I think somewhere in my head, I think a lot of women in this India, as great as they are, have led us to this space in our lives. Even my own family and relatives, I say to the women in my family and relatives that, it's because you did a certain thing in a certain way for yours. Not necessarily I have to do it the same way.
Mankiran is an entrepreneur and fashion designer from Delhi. I'm meeting her in Hyderabad after one of her first exhibitions with her own label called Mayray.
I have recently quit a bunch of things I used to do as a job to start my own fashion label. It's called Mayray, which basically means may there always be hope. It's about picking some old world charm and also working with the modern day edge and trying to see if that actually works together or not. So it's also keeping things kind of simple, but at the same time just being edgy with it, with your cuts or silhouettes. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to tone it down and make it more functional. So it's about revisiting and reinventing the craft of Fulkari to make it functional for daily wear. So.
Mankiran combines traditional garments with modern cuts and silhouettes and finds her own way. She's not just importing Western styles, but mixing them with all the rich traditional influences India has to offer and create something new. But clothes are not just covering you, they can have a lot of power. Clothes can be a statement in many ways.
When I would meet women, it was a wedding season in Bihar. And urban women, urban middle class or high class women, they would show me clothes, really traditional clothes, maybe 25-year-old sari of their grandmother or their mother-in-law. And when I went to rural India, the clothes I was shown were jeans and short skirts or spaghettis, and I was like, you really want to wear this in the wedding? And they were like, yeah, we have to wear it. The groom side of family should know that we are modern too. So we are at a place where a lot of women are still attaching independence, and there are a lot of us who have crossed that phase where we are beyond clothes or who will work in the kitchen, man or woman phase. We have kind of sorted that bit, and we have moved towards more refined form of living. But there are some who, for them, it's a struggle for them to go to college, go to school, convince their parents to not ask them to marry at 19 or 20. For them, that cloth, what they're wearing, and that's a statement, and that is required. If they don't make those small little statements, the world will not notice them. They will not feel confident that they were able to exercise their choice, and they need that, and that's like a tool that I'm wearing what I want to wear. So I think that's important for where they are coming from.
Even though you can see a lot of women in Western outfits, sometimes even miniskirts, one cannot speak of an independent choice for women of what to wear.
As long as you're in India, it can never be a 100% independent decision. I know this because as much as I would love to wear a pair of shorts and like a loose t-shirt and just walk out, I also have to be very mindful of where I'm at. And I can't just do it anywhere. Everywhere in Goa, you will see people wearing just anything, just fine, and nobody really cares. But I can't do the same thing exactly, in the middle of Hyderabad or in the middle of Delhi, because I have to be really mindful of people. Sometimes they think their religion or their culture gets hurt by this. So I don't think my choices can all in India to wear whatever I want would be, I would say it's independent choice. It's always a mindful decision. So that is going to take a very long time for the Indian women, yeah.
The decision on what to wear sometimes depends on the view of men towards them. It can be a risk for women to wear tight and sexy clothes in the middle of the night in remote areas and side roads in bigger cities. The society has to change, men have to change, but changes are not always as fast as we would like them to be.
For the longest all of us have known, India has been a patriarchal society, and unfortunately even today it is in certain pockets of the country, and it is quite strong, not sure if I should be saying, but I think it's here to stay. It will not go anytime soon unless the men in the country stand up for women's rights.
नाही अजूनपर्यंत आहेच. मुलांना वेगळी वागणूक असते आणि मुलींना वेगळी वागणूक असते. म्हणजे लवकर उठायचं म्हटलं तर मुलींनी उठलं पाहिजे. मुलांना हा झोप बाबा, तू नंतर उठलास तरी चालशील. अजूनही आहे म्हणजे तसं. ते खरं अजून बदलायला पाहिजे पुढे कुठेतरी जाऊन. पण म्हणजे आम्ही आता सगळ्यांना सांगतो, त्यामुळे आम्ही काही तसंही करत नाही. आम्ही दोघांनाही त्या प्रकारचं मान देतो की तूही उठ आणि तिलाही उठवू दे असं. पण आहे सगळीकडे म्हणजे मुलींनी 7 वाजता यायलाच पाहिजे, मुलांनी 8 वाजेपर्यंत आलं तरी त्याला कोणी बोलत नाही. पण हे सगळं खरं बदललं पाहिजे. कोणीतरी जाऊन पुढे असं म्हणजे आज मी बदलवलं तर उद्या दुसरीने असं एक वसा चालू ठेवला पाहिजे की मुलांनाही तसंच प्रमाणचं म्हणजे दिलं पाहिजे. तरच आपली जनता पण म्हणजे हे होईल. जे अत्याचार म्हणतो आपण, टॉर्चर म्हणतो, ते घरामधून सुद्धा त्यांच्याकडे वागणूक आली पाहिजे की बाबा तू दुसऱ्या मुलीला बोलतोस, तुझी पण बहीण आहे घरामध्ये, असं त्यांनी तिथल्या तिथे आपण टोकलं तर सगळ्या गोष्टी होऊ शकतील.
Since years men are taught to behave a certain way and there's a power struggle, and now that women are like more aware of like certain problems around them and they speak up, it's not going down well with the men. So I think there's like a change, but it's going to take a lot of time for this country, this city to become completely safe, which I don't think is going to happen, but maybe it's going to get better for sure.
I think speaking against it is also a lot more important. If, for example, if I'm in a public place and I see a couple of men or like just a man staring at me, I would just stand there and stare back at him because I'll be like, what's your problem? And sometimes just doing that makes them realize that they're in a public place or we're in a public place, and once I've done this, everybody's attention has gone towards him and I. So he might be eventually proved wrong. So I see that kind of thing where they just say, oh, nothing, or they're scared or something. So I think it's also one of those things where you need to also stand up for your own. I don't say do that in the middle of night at 2 o'clock. Of course not. Make your way home as soon as you can. But at the same time, when you can, just do this because it's important for them to know that you have a voice of your own. You're not just going to stand there and be something they can just keep staring at for just no reason.
This unsaid rule of of being a man and woman, and this is for you and this is not for you, has created this big gap, and we need a lot of gender healing here. I'm running a blog called Mention Not, where I'm writing stories of changing Indian men, because if the Indian women have changed, a lot of Indian men have also changed. Very sweet men we have who are very supportive. For them it doesn't matter whether we are women or men, they're just like us. And they are like those fathers who have supported their daughters. They are those husbands who have stood up for their wives. They are these brothers who send their sisters outside. These are those boyfriends who are taking care of their girlfriends and not feeling threatened with their independence. So I thought that these kind of stories need to come out about India, because we need that gender healing here.
India is on its way. Developments are happening and mindsets are changing. Of course, in different paces, but we can see it everywhere. Cities develop faster in terms of equality and women's rights, but the mentality also changes in small villages, even if it's not that fast.
It's very important to be optimistic. I think we tend to forget with everything bad that's happening. There's a lot of pessimism around, even like in Bombay, like people just be like, this is like this, like it's bad and like everything is horrible. But people don't try and see the trajectory of where it was 20 years ago and what's happened now. Things have really changed, like in terms like the question you asked, how my grandmother's life was as opposed to mine, like it's very different. It's been like years, but progress has happened, and I think specifically in a country like India, it will take time. Like there are very set notions of how we've lived all our lives. So I think everybody should be a little more optimistic and also be like try and change things. So whether it's the media, whether it's people like us, we should also make sure that we are helping, bring about this change.
What we see in today's India is quite positive and quite transformative, and with more women standing up for themselves, with digital revolution being what it is, and with more women leaders and more women actresses or change makers standing up for themselves, there is so much more that the country has to offer. So I would like to really want people outside India to not limit themselves from entering the country. I think the country is extremely beautiful. There is so much that the country has to offer.
It's very easy to criticize, right? Nothing is perfect. And I don't want to criticize. We have a whole planet and we have to think globally today. And if you look at women all together on this planet, I think the metamorphosis that has to happen is that we become aware of our inner calling as a woman. And that has nothing to do with the country we live in or the language we speak or the background we come from. It is an inner awareness, an inner voice that's there, and that can crystallize into anything. And I feel that's the next step of evolution, is that we understand very clearly there is men and there's women. We don't have to be the same. We have to be balanced and in our core balanced, right? And this inner calling is something I feel is the next step for both, right? And I think then we can live in a world where we accept differences. We don't have to be all uniform the same. I think that's very dangerous. So I think the most important thing is to find your own calling, live by it, and be accepted by others and accept others.
It is like when a movement is happening and when the change is happening, not all of us are very open to change. Some of us become a little uncomfortable towards change. That's what is happening here. It's nothing, and I wouldn't say that men are standing against women or women are standing against women. It's all of us. We are gearing up for change. Some of us are resisting the change. Some of us are going with the change. So we are in a very interesting process of arriving somewhere. We are on a great journey, and I can see us moving forward. When United States of America is still struggling to have a woman president, we had a woman president 10 years back. So I think we are moving forward in a great speed.
Turning negative into positive, standing up for your rights, be kind and change the patriarchal society in a slow but constant way. It is happening because of strong, brave and wise women all over the country, who are looking ahead rather than linger over things that happened in the past. We should appreciate their everyday fights as well, and not undermine them with just looking at the horrible stories. Because this says so much about how powerful these women are, and what they can achieve.